live, child. Oh my God, we is live. Hello. Oh, wait. There we go. Hey, kings and queens. Welcome back to the channel. It's the girl Aneke. How y'all doing or whatever? How y'all doing or whatever? Hey. Hey, kings and queens. Welcome back to the channel. It's the girl Aneke here on Aneke Budgets. And as you guys know, we cast up a budget, mind our business, and pay off of debt, y'all. And not necessarily in them 4 orders. We don't know what is going on, but not necessarily in those 4 orders. Okay, child? So if you are here, you are obviously here for Sunday Reads, and thank you so much for joining and love to see you. Okay, so as you guys know, today is a new book, y'all. A new book. We have a new book today, and the book we are reading is The 48 Laws of Power, which is little baby over here. Look at her. She is thick, child. She is thick. But we are reading her today. We are reading a few chapters in here just to see how it's going to go, child, because this is a big book. This is bigger than the one that we had before, than The Richest Man in Babylon that we had before. So, yeah. So, y'all, without further ado, let's not waste time, but let's get into the video. So again, this is the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, and yeah, let's start the book, y'all. I'm super excited to read this book because, baby, it looking like it gives what needed to be given, and it did what needed to be done. Okay, so let's start. So the first law, never outshine the master. Okay, judgment. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. In your desire to please and impress them, do not go too far into displaying your talents, or you might accomplish the opposite. Inspire fear and insecurity. Make your masters appear more brilliant than they are, and you will attain the heights of power. All right, so let's see what this is talking about. Okay, so the transgression of the law. Nicholas Fouquet, we're going to go with Fouquet, Louis, the what, 15th or the 14th? The 14th finance minister in the first years of his reign was a generous man who loved lavish parties, pretty women, and poetry. He also loved money, and he led an extravagant, I don't know why that was hard for me, extravagant lifestyle. Fouquet was clever and very much indispensable to the king. So when the Prime Minister Jules Mazarin died in 1661, the finance minister expected to be named the successor. Instead, the king decided to abolish the position. What? This and other signs made Fouquet suspect that he was falling out of favor, and so he decided to ingratiate himself with the king by staging the most spectacular party the world has ever seen. The party's ostensible purpose would be to commemorate the completion of Fouquet's Chateau Vaux-le-Vicomte. Okay, all right, see, Vaux-le-Vicomte? But its real function was to pay tribute to the king, the guest of honor. Okay. The most brilliant nobility of Europe and some of the greatest minds of the time, La Fontaine, La Rochefort. All right, let me tell you something. What they're not going to do is embarrass me with these names, because what is we doing? But La Fontaine, La Rochefoucauld, Madame de Sévigné, girl, attended the party. Okay. Molière wrote a play for the occasion in which he himself was to perform at the evening's conclusion. The party began with a lavish 7-course dinner featuring foods from the Orient never before tasted in France, as well as new dishes created especially for the night. The meal was accompanied with music commissioned by Fouquet to honor the king. After dinner, there was a promenade through the chateau's garden. The grounds and fountains of Vaux-le-Vicomte were to be inspiration for Versailles. Fouquet personally accompanied the young king through the geometrical aligned arrangements of shrubbery and flower beds. Arriving at the garden's kennels, they witnessed a fireworks display, which was followed by the performance of Moliere's play. The party ran well into the night, and everyone agreed it was the most amazing affair they had ever had. The next day, Fouquet was arrested by the king's head musketeer, D'Artagnan. What? Child, all right, let me tell you something. These names is going to get your girl every time. And so I'm going to say he was arrested by the king's musketeer, HBIC, name D. Okay, I ain't got time. I don't. 3 months later, he went on trial for stealing from the country's treasury. Actually, most of the stealing he was accused of, he had done on the king's behalf and with the king's permission. Fouquet was found guilty and sent to the most isolated prison in France, high in the Pyrenees Mountains, where he spent the last 20 years of his life in solitary confinement. Wait a minute. Okay. Louis, number 14, child. The Sun King was a proud and arrogant man who wanted to be the center of attention at all times. He could not countenance being outdone in lavishness by anyone, and certainly not his finance minister. All right now. To succeed Fouquet, Louis chose Jean-Baptiste Colbert, a man famous for his parsimony and for giving the dullest parties in Paris. All right, really? This what we gonna do? This is what we gonna do. We five? You gon' all right. Jealousy is a crazy thing. Okay, Colbert made sure that any money liberated from the treasury went straight into Louis's hand. With the money, Louis built a palace even more magnificent than Fouquet's, the glorious palace of Versailles. He used the same architects, please, decorators, and garden designer. And at Versailles, Louis hosted parties even more extravagant than the one that cost Fouquet his freedom. Let's examine the situation. The evening of the party, as Fouquet presented spectacle on spectacle to Louis, each more magnificent than the one before, he imagined the affair as demonstrating his loyalty and devotion to the king. Not only did he think the party would put him back in the king's favor, he thought it would show his good taste. It thought he would show his good taste, his connections, and his popularity, making him indispensable to the king and demonstrating that he would make an excellent prime minister. Instead, however, each new spectacle, each appreciative smile bestowed by the guests on Fouquet made it seem to Louis that his own friends and subjects were more charmed by the finance minister than by the king himself, and that Fouquet was actually flaunting his wealth and power. Let me tell you something. Jealousy is a crazy thing because what? How you get that out of me throwing a party? How you get that out of me like minding my business? As a matter of fact, I'm trying to celebrate you. Jealousy is a crazy thing. Y'all better watch out. Y'all better pay attention. Don't be out here. Is this how really you have to be in the world? I thought your work was supposed to speak for yourself. And it's crazy that people, if they feel inferior to you, like they will find any reason at all to put you down. This man sent him to jail off of a party? Bruh, it couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. Cause what? Okay, let's continue, child. Cause baby, rather than flattering Louis XIV, Fouquet's elaborate party offended the king's vanity. Yeah. Louis would not admit this to anyone, of course. Instead, he found a convenient excuse to rid himself of a man who had inadvertently made him feel insecure. Such is the fate, in some form or other, of all those who unbalance the master's sense of self, poke holes in his vanity, or make him doubt his prominence. Now, how is it my fault? Let me tell you something. My best friend Cole, we be talking about stuff, and she be giving great advice. She said to me the other day, and she said this all the time, how am I supposed to be responsible for somebody else's feelings? It's crazy, but that's literally what you have to do. You have to be responsible for somebody else feeling how they feel about themselves, and you get in trouble because you don't even, like, how is this my fault? And you know what? That's crazy, because grow up. I'm just saying, man. We all are living our lives and we all are going through things. And you is mad over a party? Come on now, Lewis. Come on. All right, so let me see. Okay, so when the evening began, Fouquet was at the top of the world, but by the time it had ended, he was at the bottom. Okay, that's by Voltaire. Observance in the law. In the early 1600s, the Italian astronomer and mathematician Galileo found himself in a precarious position. He depended on the generosity of great rulers to support his research, and so, like all Renaissance scientists, he would sometimes make gifts of his inventions and discoveries to the leading patrons of time. Once, for instance, he presented a military compass he had invented to the Duke of Gonzaga. Then he dedicated a book explaining the use of the compass to the Medicis. Both rulers were both grateful, and through them, Galileo was able to find more students to teach. No matter how great the discovery, however, his patrons usually paid him with gifts, not cash. This made for a life of constant insecurity and dependence. There must be an easier way, he thought. Galileo hit on a new strategy in 1610 when he discovered the moons of Jupiter. Instead of dividing the discovery among his patrons, giving one the telescope he had used, dedicating the book to another, and so on, as he had done in the past, he decided to focus exclusively on the Medicis. He chose the Medicis for one reason. Shortly after Cosimo I had established the Medici dynasty in 1540. He had made Jupiter the mightiest of the gods and medicine symbol. Shortly after Cosimo, I had established the Medicine dynasty in 1540. He had made Jupiter the mightiest of the gods, the Medici symbol, a symbol of a power that went beyond politics and banking, one linked to ancient Rome and its divinities. Galileo turned his discovery of Jupiter's moon into a cosmic event, right? Honoring the Medici's greatness. Shortly after the discovery, he announced that the brightest stars, the moons of Jupiter, offered themselves in the heavens to his telescope at the same time as Cosimo's second enthronement. He said that the number of the moons, 4, harmonized with the number of the Medicis. Cosimo's second had 3 brothers. I'm getting it now. He said that the number of the moons, 4, harmonized with the number of the Medicis. Cosimo II had 3 brothers, and that the moons orbited Jupiter as these 4 suns revolved around Cosimo I, the dynasty's founder. More than coincidence, this showed that the heavens themselves reflected the ascendancy of the Medici family. After he dedicated the discovery to the Medicis, Galileo commissioned an emblem representing Jupiter sitting on a cloud with the 4 stars circling around him, and presented this to Cosimo II as a symbol of his link to the stars. In 1610, Cosimo made Galileo his official court philosopher and mathematician with a full salary. For a scientist, this was the coup of a lifetime. The days of begging for patronage was over. Interpretation. In one stroke, Galileo gained more with his new strategy than he had in years of begging. The reason is simple. All masters want to appear more brilliant than other people. They do not care about science or empirical truths or the latest inventions. They care about their name and their glory. Galileo gave the Medicis infinitely more glory by linking their name to cosmic forces than he had by making them the patrons of some new scientific gadget or discovery. Scientists are not spared the vagaries of court life and patronage. They too must serve masters who hold the purse strings. Y'all, I know they not talking. They talking about money in the first chapter? They said, listen, if you want big bank, you got to come with big bank energy, and you got to support the person with the big. That's crazy. Wow. I mean, this is life lessons, and it's given what needs to be given, but wow, that's crazy. Wow. And their great intellectual powers can make the master feel insecure, as if he were only there to supply the funds, an ugly, ignoble object. The producer of a great work wants to feel he is more than just the provider of the financing. He wants to appear creative and powerful, and also more important than the work produced in his name. Instead of insecurity, you must give him glory. Galileo did not challenge the intellectual authority of the Medicis with his discovery or make them feel inferior in any way. By literally aligning them with the stars, he made them shine brilliantly among the courts of Italy. He did not outshine the master. He made the master outshine all others. That's what we doing? I guess that's what we doing. Keys to power. Everyone has insecurities. When you show yourself in the world and display your talents, you naturally stir up all kinds of resentment, envy, and other manifestations of insecurity. This is to be expected. You cannot spend your life worrying about the petty feelings of others. Okay, talk about it. Talk about it. I just said this 2 seconds ago. You is responsible for your own feelings. Sir, ma'am, come on. How am I supposed to be responsible for you? Well, you got to be responsible for your own feelings. It's just facts. Okay? You cannot spend your life worrying about the petty feelings of others because they gonna have their feelings and baby, you gonna live your life. You can't stay there and do that. With those above you, however, you must take a different approach. When it comes to power, outshining the master is perhaps the worst mistake of all. Do not fool yourselves into thinking that life has changed much since the days of Louis XIV and the Medicis. Those who attain high standing in life are like kings and queens. They want to feel secure in their position and superior to those around them in intelligence, wit, and charm. It is a deadly but common misperception to believe that by displaying and vaunting your gifts and talents, you are winning the master's affection. You know what's crazy? This is the same thing you have to do when you have a job and you are good. This is crazy because now in a capitalist society, you have to do this. You have to show this. You have to be top dog because ain't nobody giving out nothing for free. You have to show and prove that you him. Your pronouns, as they say, has to be she, her, or he, him. You have to be that one. You have to be I am, not the Lord. But you get what I'm saying? Now in today's capitalist society, you can't hide who you you have to, especially with social media, you have to show that you can do all things. And that's great. All right, let's continue. The world hasn't changed, y'all. It's just gotten different ways to show that you have to talk your shit when you need to talk. All right, sorry, it's Sunday. I shouldn't be cussing. But you have to talk your talk when you need to talk your talk. That's literally what he's saying. Okay. He may feign appreciation, but it is... wit and charm. Okay, backing up. Okay. It is a deadly but common misperception to believe that by displaying and vaunting your gifts and talents, you are winning the master's affection. He may feign appreciation, but at his first opportunity, he will replace you with someone less intelligent, less attractive, less threatening, just as Louis XIV replaced the sparkling Fouquet with a bland Colbert. Damn. And as with Louis, he will not admit the truth, but will find an excuse to rid himself of your presence. Let me tell you something. This ain't it. But girl has experience. This ain't it, but girl has experience, and they ain't lying. They is not lying. Okay? This law involves two rules that you must realize. First, you can inadvertently outshine a master simply by being yourself. There are masters who are more insecure than others, monstrously insecure. You may naturally outshine them by your charm and grace. No one had more natural talents than Astor Manfredi, Prince of Faenza. The most handsome of all the young princes of Italy, he captivated his subjects with his generosity and open spirit. Oh, that's so cute. In the year 1500, Caesar Borgia laid siege to Faenza. When the city surrendered, the citizens expected the worst from the cruel Borgia, who, however, decided to spare the town. He simply occupied his fortress, executed none of its citizens, and allowed Prince Manfredi 18 at the time, to remain with his court in complete freedom. A few weeks later, though, soldiers hauled Astor Manfredi away to a Roman prison. A year after that, his body was fished out of the river Timber, a stone tied around his neck. Whoa, this got dark real quick. Borgia justified the horrible deed with some sort of trumped-up charge of treason, conspiracy, but the real problem was that he was notoriously vain and insecure. The young man was outshining him without even trying. Given Manfredi's natural talent, the prince's mere presence made Borgia seem less attractive and charismatic. The lesson is simple. If you cannot help charming and superior, the lesson is simple. If you cannot help being charming and superior, you must learn to avoid such monsters of vanity. Either that or find a way to mute your good qualities when in the company of Caesar Borgia. Please, because the fish meat, what? Second, never imagine that because the master loves you, you can do anything you want. Entire books could be written about favorites who fell out of favor by taking their status for granted for daring to outshine. In late 16th century Japan, the favorite of Emperor Hideyoshi was a man called Senno Riku, the premier artist of the tea ceremony, which had become an obsession with the nobility. He was one of Hideyoshi's most trusted advisors, had his own apartment in the palace, and was honored throughout Japan. Yet, in 1591, Hideyoshi had him arrested and sentenced to death. Rikyu took his own life instead. The cause for a sudden change of fortune was discovered later. It seems that Rikyu, former peasant and later court favorite, had had a wooden statue made of himself wearing sandals, a sign of nobility, and posing loftily. He had had this statue placed in the most important temple inside the palace gate, in clear sight of the royalty who often would pass by. To Hideyoshi, this signified that Rikyu had no sense of limits. Presuming that he had the same rights as those of the highest nobility, he had forgotten that his position depended on the emperor and had come to believe that he had earned it on his own. This was an unforgivable miscalculation of his own importance, and he paid for it with his own life. Remember the following. Never take your position for granted and never let any favors you receive go to your head. Knowing the dangers of outshining your master, you can turn this law to your advantage. First, you must flatter and puff up your master. Overt flattery can be effective but has its limits. Is it too direct and obvious and looks bad to other courtiers? Discreet flattery is much more powerful. If you are more intelligent than your master, for example, seem the opposite. Make him appear more intelligent than you. Act naive. Make it seem that you need his expertise. Commit harmless mistakes that will not hurt you in the long run, but will give you the chance to ask for his help. Masters adore such requests. A master cannot bestow on you the gifts of his experience, may direct rancor and ill will at you instead. A master who cannot bestow on you the gifts of his experience may direct rancor and ill will at you instead. If your ideas are more creative than your master's, ascribe them to him in as public a manner as possible. Make it clear that your advice is merely an echo of his advice. If you surpass your master in wit, it is okay to play the role of a court jester, but do not make him appear cold and surly by compromise. Tone down your humor if necessary, and find ways to make him seem to dispense of amusement and good cheer. If you are naturally more sociable and generous than your master, be careful not to be the cloud that blocks his radiance from others. He must appear as the sun around which everyone revolves, radiating power and brilliance, the center of attention. If you are thrust into the position of entertaining him, a display of your limited means may win you his sympathy. Any attempt to impress him with your grace and generosity can prove fatal. Learn from Fouquet or pay the price. In all these cases, it is not a weakness to disguise your strengths if in the end they lead to power. By letting others outshine you, you remain in control instead of being a victim of their insecurity. They will all come in handy the day you decide to rise above your inferior status. If, like Galileo, you can make your master shine even more in the eyes of others, then you are a godsend and you will be instantly promoted. Imagine, the stars are in the sky. They can only be one sun at a time. Never obscure the sunlight or rival the sun's brilliance. Rather, fade into the sky and find ways to heighten the master star's intensity. Reversal. All right, okay, sorry. Authority. Avoid outshining the master. All superiority is odious. But the superiority of a subject over his prince is not only stupid, but it is fatal. This is a lesson that the stars in the sky teach us. They may be related to the sun, but just as brilliant, but they never appear in her company. Reversal. You cannot worry about upsetting every person you come across, but you must be selectively cruel. If your superior is a falling star, there's nothing to fear from outshining him. Do not be merciful. Your master has no such scruples in his own cold-blooded climb to the top. Gauge his strength. If he is weak, discreetly hasten his fall. Outdo, outcharm, outsmart him at key moments. If he is very weak and ready to fall, let nature take its course. Do not risk outshining a feeble superior. It might appear cruel or spiteful. But if your master is firm in his position, yet you know yourself to be more capable, bid your time and be patient. It is the natural course of things that power eventually fades and weakens. Your master will fall someday, and if you play it right, you will outlive and someday outshine him. Wow. I need a drink of water after that. That took me, wow. I feel after this first law of power, I feel low-key let down. Not let down, but like understand the cruelty of the world. The first law of power, as it said, is never to outshine the master, right? And reading through these pages, like I just feel like the world is such a horrible place that people can't even love and help each other and everybody's talent shine. And instead, we have to downplay ourselves because everyone wants to be, I'm not saying everyone, but people want to be the top. And if you just want to do what you can do to the best of your ability and shine in your department, it is looked upon as being a threat to their position. And it's crazy because why can't we all just live in, a peaceful, like why can't we have peaceful times and just build and experience laugh, joys, and love? And why can't we do that? This first law, low-key put me down, y'all. And it's sad. So, yeah. But let's move on to law number 2 because hopefully law number 2 will help us and get in a better mood and tell us what we need to do. So law number 2 is never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. All right, let me tell you something. This book, what is this book on? Okay, I know there are lessons in here and I know there are gems, but what is you on, big dog? The title alone is giving me, never put too much trust in friends and learn how to use enemies. What? What? All right, judgment. Be wary of friends. They will betray you more quickly, for they are easily aroused to envy. All right, okay. What? Yeah, I know I said I wanted to read this book and I was excited, but this is making me question it. Like, what? They also become spoiled and tyrannical. But hire a former enemy and he will be more loyal than a friend because he has more to prove. In fact, you have more to fear from friends than from enemies. If you have no enemies, find a way to make them. Why would I want enemies? I'm just saying. I'd rather have a friend that be telling me about myself. Listen, I'd rather my friend call me a man. I'm not. I'm not, but I'd rather the honesty. Like, why do I need enemies? Lord. Okay, let's read. Because why do I need enemies? I'm low-key like, what? Okay, let's try and find the joy in reading this, or try and find the lessons or more lessons in reading this book, because it's low-key depressing. The first two, I know there are lessons, but this is low-key depressing. All right, all right. Get it, Aneke. Let's read, y'all. In the mid 9th century AD, a young man named Michael III assumed the throne of the Byzantine Empire. His mother, the Empress Theodora, had been banished to the nunnery, and her lover, all right, they gonna have to get these names together. Because, sir, ma'am, what? And her lover, Tyrone, because call on Tyrone. Ayy. Call on Tyrone, because anybody got time for all this, had been murdered. At the head of the conspiracy to depose Theodora and enthrone Michael had been Michael's uncle, Bardas, a man of intelligence and ambition. Of course, Bardas of intelligence, of ambition, because you see, when people want to take position, them always try to make the other person when they want out of position look bad. So, Barda, a man of intelligence and ambition. Michael was now a young, inexperienced ruler surrounded by intriguers, murderers, and profligates. All right. In the time of peril, he needed someone he could trust as his counselor, and his thoughts turned to Basileus, his best friend. I would turn to my best friend too. Basileus had no experience whatsoever in government and politics. In fact, he was the head of the royal stables. He had proven his love and gratitude time and again. Get somebody in your corner. They had met a few years before when Michael had been visiting the stables just as a wild horse got loose. Basileus, a young groom from peasant Macedonian stock, had saved Michael's life. Hey, you save my life? A friend for life. The groom's strength and courage had impressed Michael, who immediately raised Basileus from the obscurities of being a horse trainer to the position of head of the stables. Hey, get friend in the high places. He loaded his friend with gifts and favors, and they became inseparable. Basileus was sent to the finest school in Byzantium, and the crude peasant became a cultured and sophisticated courtier. Yep. No, Michael was emperor, and he needed someone loyal. Who could Michael better trust with the post of chamberlain and chief counselor than a young man who owed him everything? Basileus could be trained for the job, and Michael loved him like a brother. Ignoring the advice of those who recommended the much more qualified Bardas, Michael chose his friend. Yes, Michael did. Basileus learned well and was soon advising the emperor on all matters of the state. The only problem seemed to be the money. Basileus never had enough. Exposure to the splendors of Byzantine court life made him avaricious for the perks of power. Michael doubled, then tripled his salary, even ennobled him, and married him off to his own mistress. All right, listen, y'all not gonna get me with this name. His own mistress X. Keeping such a trusted friend and advisor satisfied was worth any price. But more trouble was to come. Bardas was now head of the army, and Basileus convinced Michael that the man was hopelessly ambitious. Under the illusion that he could control his nephew, Bardas had conspired to put him on the throne, and he could conspire again. This time to get rid of Michael and assume the crown for himself. Bardas out here make plans, y'all. Bardas poured poison into Michael's ear until the emperor agreed that his uncle... Until the emperor agreed to have his uncle murdered. Them people, yeah. The friend with him talk about, wicked. During a great horse race, Basileus closed in on Bardas in the crowd and stabbed him to death. Soon after, Basileus asked that he replace Bardas as the head of the army. When he could keep control of the realm and quell rebellion, this was granted. Like an evil boy, you see? Because, Bardas, of course, Bardas the day an enemy, but at least Bardas are the enemy we can, take that one here, I pretend to be a friend. Bardas at least was your enemy where you could have see. No, Basileus' power and wealth only grew, and a few years later, Michael, in financial straits from his own extravagance, asked him to pay back some of the money he borrowed over the years. To Michael's shock and astonishment, Basileus refused with a look of imprudence. Now look at that boy. After me, I help you when you did broke, when you didn't ever know. Ooh, I love reading as a Jamaican, y'all. This is entertaining. It makes this book entertaining. Okay. You need enemies more than you need friends, according to the book. All right, let me go back. To Michael's shock and astonishment, Basileus refused with a look of imprudence that the emperor suddenly realized his predicament. Realized the problem now, big dog. The former stable boy had more money, more allies in the army and senate, and in the end, more power than the emperor himself. A few weeks later, after a night of heavy drinking, Michael awoke to find himself surrounded by soldiers. Basileus watched as they stabbed the emperor to death. All right. Some people evil, you know? Them evil. Then after proclaiming himself emperor, he rode his horse through the streets of Byzantium, brandishing the head of his former benefactor and best friend at the end of a long pipe. So that evil boy gonna kill him best friend, will send him to school, give him money for food, put him in a high power places. Just because him the one to power himself, you see, you can't trust anybody. But me and my best friend, I'm gonna go out in the business because we rather die for life. Manalis Tabuka and Manalis tweets. Interpretation. Michael III stalked his future and the sense of gratitude he thought Basileus must feel for him. Surely Basileus would serve him best. He owed the emperor his wealth, his education, and his position. Then once Basileus was in power, anything he needed, it was best to give it to him, strengthening the bonds between the two men. It was only at the fateful day when the emperor saw that the imprudent man on Basileus' face that he realized his deadly mistake. He had created a monster. Yes, you did. Because why would you do that? So that's what they mean by don't always give people stuff. Sometimes you gotta let them work for it and go through it. Wow. Lesson learned. Got it. Okay. He had created a monster. He had allowed a man to see power up close, a man who then wanted more, who asked for anything and got it, who felt encumbered by the charity he had received and simply did what many people do in such a situation. They forget the favors they have received and imagine they have earned their success by their own merits. People, evil. At Michael's moment of realization, he could still have saved his own life, but friendship and love blind every man to their interests. Wow. Nobody believes a friend can betray him, and Michael went on disbelieving until the day him head end up on a pike. True. Would I disbelieve too? Okay, Lord, protect me from my friends. I can take care of my enemies. All right, that prayer, yeah. Not protect me from my friends. I can take care of my enemies. All right. So, yeah, I'm reading as Jamaican. It's so much fun. It makes this more entertaining and it makes this more understandable. Okay. So, observance of the law. For several centuries after the fall of Han Dynasty, Chinese history followed the same pattern of violent and bloody coups, one after the other. Army men would plot to kill a weak emperor, then would replace him on the dragon throne with a strong general. The general would start a new dynasty and crown himself emperor. To ensure his own survival, he would kill off his fellow generals. Whoa, the power I get to hold up people head. Damn. A few years later, however, the pattern would resume. New generals would rise up and assassinate him or his sons in their turn. To become emperor of China was to be alone surrounded by a pack of enemies. It was the least powerful, the least secure position in the realm, I believe it. In AD 959, General Chao, Kungying, became Emperor Song. He knew the odds, the probability that within a year or two he would be murdered. How could he break the pattern? Soon after becoming emperor, Song ordered a banquet to celebrate the new dynasty and invited the most powerful commanders in the army. After they had drunk much wine, he dismissed the guards and everybody else except the generals, who now feared he would murder them in one fell swoop. Instead, he addressed them. The whole day is spent in fear, and I'm unhappy both at the table and in my bed. For which one of you does not dream of ascending the throne? Do not doubt your allegiance. But if by some chance your subordinates, seeking wealth and position, were to force the emperor's yellow robe upon you in turn, how could you refuse it? Drunk and fearing for their lives, the general proclaimed their innocence and their loyalty, but sung on other ideas. More on other ideas. The best way to pass one's day is in peaceful enjoyment of riches and honor. If you are willing to give up your commands, I'm ready to provide you with fine estates and beautiful dwellings where you may take your pleasure with singers and girls as your companions. The astonished generals realized that instead of living a life of anxiety and struggle, Song was offering them riches and security. The next day, all the generals tendered their resignations and they retired as nobles to the estates that Song bestowed on them. In one stroke, Song turned a pack of friendly wolves who would likely have betrayed him into a group of docile lambs far from all power. Over the next few years, Song continued his campaign to secure his rule. In AD 971, King Lu of the Southern Han finally surrendered to him after years of rebellion. Song said, "Nah make you beat me, nah make you kill me." To Lu's astonishment, Song gave him a rank in the imperial court and invited him to the palace to seal their newfound friendship with wine. As King Lu took the glass Song offered him, he hesitated, feared it contained poison. "Your subjects' crime certainly merited death," he cried out, "but I beg your majesty to spare your subjects' life, please." In what? What indeed? "I dare not drink this wine." Emperor Song laughed, took the glass from Lu and swallowed it himself. There was no poison. From then on, Lu became his most trusted and loyal friend. That's crazy. You mean even tell me, say, if you make enemies, you make your enemy your friend or your subjects, they will do anything for you? The book, yeah. That book yeah right here, that's that book, yeah. Let me drink water. At the time, China had splintered into many smaller kingdoms. When Cheng Su, the king of one of these, was defeated, Song's minister advised the emperor to lock this rebel up. They presented documents proving that he was still conspiring to kill Song. When Cheng Su came to visit the emperor over, instead of locking him up, Song honored him. Honor him? What? Hold on. That man yeah, out here, I try to kill me for forever. And instead of me lock him up, me for honor him? Hi, Keela girl. Keela Ramirez. Hopefully I'm saying your name right, sis. What? Instead of, all right. Let's find out the rest of it. Okay, sorry. He also gave him a package, which he told the former king to open when he was halfway home. Ching Su opened the bundle on his return journey and saw that it contained all the papers documenting his conspiracy. He realized that Song knew of his murderous plans, yet had spared him nonetheless. The generosity won him over, and he too became one of Song's most loyal vassals. Interpretation. A Chinese proverb compared friends to the jaws and teeth of dangerous animals. If you're not careful, you will find them chewing you up. Emperor Song knew the jaws he was passing between when he assumed the throne. His friends in the army would throw him up like meat, and if somehow survived, his friends in the government would have him for supper. Emperor Song would have no truck with friends. He bribed his fellow generals with splendid estates and kept them far away. This was as much a better way to emasculate them than killing them, which would only have led other generals to seek vengeance. And Song would have nothing to do with friendly ministers. More often than not, they would end up drinking his famous cup of poisonous wine. Nobody got time for all this blind poison, child. Instead of relying on friends, Song uses enemies, one after the other, transforming them into far more reliable subjects. While a friend expected more and more favor, deceit with jealousy, these former enemies expected nothing and got everything. A man suddenly spared The guillotine is a grateful man indeed. I will go to the ends of the earth for the man who had pardoned him. In time, these former enemies became Song's most trusted friends. I ain't gonna lie to you. Let me tell you something. As a supervisor, I've learned, let me tell y'all, let me help y'all out. As a supervisor, I've learned that me being harsh does not help at all. Does not help. There's times when you need to be stern, there's not times when you need to be direct, but it does not help at all. Certain when you talk to certain people certain ways. I have learned that in times when people expect you to be going off, losing your whole, and you just like, you know what? Listen, I get it. Sometimes life be hard. Sometimes you be doing this and this is wrong. But you know, everyone does it. But I do expect you to be better. I do expect you to move forward. And I do expect better things out of you. Because listen, I was there and I understand where you're coming from, but you can't stay in this position. You are better than this and you need to do better than this. Okay. And so that got me far more and got me further than me losing my whole yeah, it got me way more because they was expecting me as a supervisor to be so upset. And I'm just like, listen, I get it. I was young. I was a subordinate at one point, and now I have subordinates. I completely understand. And so now they know, listen, if Aneke says do this, she telling you for a reason. If Aneke says do that, she has something behind it. It's for your betterment. I'm not over here trying to come for you. Matter of fact, I don't even want to come for you. I'm just hoping that we can all get through this together. Okay? And so, yeah. So I get when they say, hey, listen, your enemies, if you can make them loyal, then they will do whatever needs to be done. I get that. I understand it. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, a man suddenly spared the guillotine as a grateful man indeed, and will go to the ends of the earth for the man who had pardoned him. In time, these former enemies became Song's most trusted friends, and Song was finally able to break the pattern of coups, violence, and civil war. The Song Dynasty ruled China for more than 300 years. That's what the Song Dynasty is. Oh, look at that. Okay. In a speech Abraham Lincoln delivered at the height of the Civil War, he referred to the Southerners as fellow human beings who were in error. An elder lady chastised him for not calling them irreconcilable enemies who must be destroyed. Why, madam? Lincoln replied, do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends? Wait, hold up, back it up, back it up, back it up. Yes, you do. Wow. Okay. Keys to power. It is natural to want to employ your friends when you find yourself in times of need. The world is a harsh place and your friends soften the harshness. Besides, you know them. Why depend on a stranger when you have a friend at hand? The problem is that you often do not know your friends as well as you imagine. Friends often agree on things in order to avoid an argument. They cover up their unpleasant qualities so as to not offend each other. They laugh extra hard at each other's joke. Since honesty really strengthens friendship, you may never know how a friend truly feels. Friends will say that they love your poetry, adore your music, envy your taste in clothes. Maybe they mean it. Often they do not. When you decide to hire a friend, you gradually discover the qualities he or she has kept hidden. Strangely enough, it is your act of kindness that unbalances everything. People want to feel they deserve their their good fortune. The receipt of a favor can become oppressive. It means you have been chosen because you are a friend, not necessarily because you are you are deserving. Wow. Wow. I didn't think about that. That's wow. Yeah. It means you have been chosen because you are a friend, not necessarily because you are deserving. So your resume, it's the same thing like if your resume, if people pick people based off of connections rather than their resume to me. Kind of, sort of. That's what it sounds like. Because on paper, I might look good. But what am I about? Okay. Hold on. All right. Let's go back. Yeah. There's also a touch of condescension in the act of hiring friends that secretly afflicts them. The injury will come out slowly, a little more honestly, A little more honesty, flashes of resentment and envy here and there, and before you know it, your friendship fades. The more favors and gifts you supply to provide the friendship, the less gratitude you receive. Ingratitude has a long and deep history. It has demonstrated its powers for many centuries. That is truly amazing that people continue to underestimate them. Better to be wary. If you never expect gratitude from a friend, you will be pleasantly surprised when they do prove grateful. Excuse me, y'all. I had to burp. Ew. The problem with using or hiring friends is that it will inevitably limit your power. The friend is really the one who is the most able to help you, and in the end, skill and competence are far more important than friendly feelings. Michael III had a man right under him nose who had steered him right and kept him alive. That man was Bardas. All working situations require a kind of distance between people. You are trying to work, not make friends. Friendliness, real or false, only obscures the fact. The key to power, then, is the ability to judge who is best able to further your interest in all situations. Keep friends or friendships. Keep friends for friendship, but work with the skilled and competent. Your friends, on the other hand, are an untapped gold mine that you must learn to exploit. Your enemies, on the other hand, are an untapped gold mine that you must learn to exploit. Listen, these names, man. These names. When Tally, Napoleon's foreign minister, decided in 1807 that his boss was leading France to ruin, and the time had come to turn against him, he understood the dangers of conspiring against the emperor. He needed a partner, a confederate. What friend could he trust in such a project? He chose Joseph Fouché, head of the secret police, his most hated enemy, a man who had even tried to have him assassinated. He knew that their former hatred would create an opportunity for an emotional reconciliation. He knew that Fouché would expect nothing from him, and in fact, he would work to prove that he was worthy of Tally. Choice. A person who had something to prove will move mountains for you. Finally, he knew that his relationship with Fouché would be based on mutual self-interest and would not be contaminated by personal feelings. The selection proved perfect. Although the conspirators did not succeed in toppling Napoleon, the union of such powerful but unlikely partners generated much interest in the cause. Opposition to the emperor slowly began to spread, and from then on, Tally and Fouché had a fruitful working relationship. Whenever you can, bury the hatchet with an enemy and make a point of putting him in your service. As Lincoln said, you destroy an enemy when you make a friend out of him. In 1971, during the Vietnam War, Henry Kissinger. Wow. Your girl has to learn to look at words. In 1971, during the Vietnam War, Henry Kissinger was the target of an unsuccessful kidnapping attempt, a conspiracy involving, among others, the renowned anti-war activist priest, the Berrigan brothers, 4 more Catholic priests, and 4 nuns. What? Nuns and priests was out here conspiring to kidnap people? Okay. In private, without informing the Secret Service or the Justice Department, Kissinger arranged a Saturday morning meeting with 3 of the alleged kidnappers, explaining to his guests that he would have most American soldiers out of Vietnam by mid-1972. He completely charmed them. They gave him some kidnapped Kissingers. What? They gave him some kidnapped Kissinger buttons, and one of them remained a friend of his for years, visiting him on several occasions. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. What? That's crazy. Visiting him for what? For years. Wow. We're bad. Okay. This was not just a one-time ploy. Kissinger made a policy of working with those who disagree with him. Colleagues commented that he seemed to get along better with his enemies than his friends. Without enemies around us, we grow lazy. Well, I can agree with that. Baseball goes say you likes reading. Let me tell you something, child. I don't, but I like reading to y'all because we both read and learn together. And we pick up stuff and things that help us together. But it definitely proves to be fun reading for y'all. Okay. Without enemies around us, we grow lazy. And I can say that. When you're comfortable, you stay in your comfortable space. When you're uncomfortable, then you put in effort. And that's what they mean by without enemies around us, we grow lazy. An enemy at our heels sharpen our wits, keeping us focused and alert. It is sometimes better, right? It is sometimes better then to use enemies as enemies rather than transforming them into friends or allies. Okay. Mayo saw conflict as key in his approach to power. In 1937, the Japanese invaded China, interrupting the civil war between Mao's communists and their enemies, the nationalists. Fearing that the Japanese would wipe them out, some communist leaders advocated leaving the nationalists to fight the Japanese and using the time to recuperate. Mayo disagreed. The Japanese could not possibly defeat and occupy a vast country like China for long. Once they left, the communists would have grown rusty if they had been out of combat for several years and would be ill prepared to reopen their struggle with the nationalists. To fight a formidable foe like Japanese, in fact, would be the perfect training for the communist ragtag army. Mayo's plan was adapted and it worked. By the time the Japanese finally retreated, the communists had gained the fighting experience that helped them defeat the nationalists. Wow. That's why China is a communist country. Wait, is it a communist country? Wow. Wow. Years later, a Japanese visitor tried to apologize to Mayo for his country's invasion of China. Mayo interrupted. Should I not thank you instead? Without a word, the opponent, he explained, a man or group cannot grow stronger. Mayo's strategy of constant conflict had several key components. First, be certain that in the long run, you will emerge victorious. Never pick a fight with somebody you are not sure you can defeat, as Mayo knew the Japanese would be defeated in time. Second, if you have no apparent enemies, you must sometimes set up a convenient target, even turn a friend into an enemy. Mayo used this tactic and again in politics. Third, use such enemies to define your cause more clearly to the public, even framing it as a struggle of good against evil. Mayo, wait a minute, because reading this and you think about, listen, y'all. So I listen to a lot of stuff. I listen to things on politics. I listen to things on finances. I listen to things on, self-improvement. And then you think about all the things after reading this book and you see how they all come together. And I'm just wow, because framing things in a certain way would have people on your side or not on your side. That is crazy, but I see what they mean. Wow. Okay. Third, use such enemies to define your cause more clearly to the public, even framing it as a struggle of good against evil. Mayo actually encouraged China's disagreement with the Soviet Union and the United States. Without clear-cut enemies, he believed his people would lose any sense of what Chinese communism meant. A sharply defined enemy is a far stronger argument for your sides than all the words you could possibly put together. Never let the presence of enemies upset or distress you. You are far better off with a declared opponent or two than not knowing where your real enemies lie. The man of power welcomes conflict, using enemies to enhance his reputation as a sure-foot fighter who can be relied upon in times of uncertainty. True. Although it is best not to mix work with friendship, there are times when a friend can be useful to a greater effect than an enemy. A man of power, for example, often has dirty work that has to be done, but for the sake of appearances, it is generally preferable to have other people do it for him. Friends often do this the best since your affection for him makes them willing to take chances. Also, if your plans go haywire, For some reason, you can use a friend as a convenience scapegoat. All right, what in the I am what I don't even know how to explain it. What in the hell? What? These people talk about using your friends as scapegoats. What? What? They would let their closest friend at court take the fall for a mistake. Wait a minute. Isn't this like how what jail is right now with people who talking about who especially when you think about like gangs and stuff, like oh, standing on business. What business you standing on? You out here about to go to jail for a crime that you didn't commit because you standing on business? What we talking about? What? We be out here just taking the fall for any and everybody, and now we have a whole big prison system because what we just not gonna talk the truth, and friends are out here being scapegoats. I see, man, y'all better than me, cause I ain't doing it. I am not doing it. Wow. This fall of the favorite was a trick often used by kings and sovereigns. They would let their closest friends at court take the fall for a mistake, since the public would not believe that they would deliberately sacrifice a friend for such a purpose. Of course, after you play that card, you have lost your friend forever. Of course, when I lose too, you lose me. It is best then to reserve the scapegoat's role for someone who is close to you but not too close. Wow. Finally, the problem about working with friends is that it confuses the boundaries and distances that working requires. But if both partners in the arrangement understand the dangers involved, a friend often can be employed to great effect. You must never let your guard down in such a venture, however. Always be on the lookout for any signs of emotional disturbance, such as envy and ingratitude. Nothing is stable in the realm of power, and even the closest of friends can be transformed into the worst of enemies. Okay, y'all. So we just got through 2 of the laws, and there are 48 to go, and it's already been an hour. But child, these 2 laws alone, what? Got your girl coming through it. So yeah, I'm gonna end the reading right there. But baby, those 2 laws alone, better to use your enemies than to use your friends. And the first one was don't outshine your master. And the way how they read, girl, child, sir, I'm just saying. But yeah, y'all, that is the first 2 chapters of the 48 Laws of Power. It is definitely given a different energy than The Richest Man in Babylon. And it is making me realize in the space that I am in now, all the things. But child, this right here is a doozy. If you have not read this book, be prepared for all the things, child, because they are going to give it to you straight, no chaser, and maybe, just maybe, with an extra shot. So anyways, y'all, thank you so much for watching. I've learned and understood some stuff, but baby, it is definitely, wow, I'm definitely conflicted. I don't know about y'all, but I'm conflicted. This book, I don't know if it's like giving me what I need, but it's definitely making me understand the world better and understand people better and give different perspective on things, which is the same thing that The Richest Man in Babylon gave the last time too. But it's definitely eye-opening, this book. With just the first 2 chapters, use your enemies and not your friends, because your friends will most likely cheat you. And then don't outshine your master. Like, it's a lot to think about. It's food for thought. So if you have not read the book, I hope you guys have gotten the book. If you have not gotten the book, then I hope you're here for the reading. I've read only chapter 2, but I will see you guys next week for the continued reading. I only do this for an hour on here. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, child. I hope you got something out of it, because baby, it tried me. But my name is Aneke. I will see you guys later. I hope you guys subscribe, like, and leave a comment down below about what you thought about this book. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.